Start with Ohalos.
Davened? You davened already?
I have not oven, no.
All right. Yud Aleph Hey. If the tumor is inside the house, what Tahor places over him, Beit Shammai declares him Tahor, whereas Beit Hillel declares him Tameh. A dog ate corpse flesh and then died, and is presently lying across the threshold of a house. Rav Meir says if its neck is a handbreadth wide, tumor spreads into the house, and if not, tumor does not spread into the house. Yossi says we check the tumor. If it is inside the doorstep, the house becomes Tameh. If it is outside the doorstep, the house remains Tahor. Rav Eliezer says if his mouth is inside, the house remains Tahor. If his mouth is outside, the house becomes Tameh because tumor exits through the rear. Rabbi Yehuda ben Sarah says in any of these cases, the house becomes Tameh. How long can the corpse flesh remain inside and still convey tumor? 24-hour periods, and regarding birds and fish, long enough to be thrown into a fire and become burnt. These are the words of Red Shimon. Yehuda ben Sarah says regarding birds and fish for 24 hours.
Okay.
One more, right?
No,
Cistern. No,
this is me now.
Okay. Right.
Okay, so Chados Shivabai. So we've got the cistern inside the house. Okay, so the cistern is aligned. That's a lined pit. Okay, and just to remind you of a couple of basic principles over here, we said that a kli can form an ohel together with the walls of a proper ohel when it's in contact or when it's close. Okay. Right, close. In other words, it's less than a tefach in between. And then you say lavud, like you do with the sukkah. You have that lavud principle. So once it's that close, we say okay, that's basically closed. Okay. So
by the way, I'm sorry. My picture is very small. Not that I need it big. Is there a reason for that? Did we change something? Is my picture usually the regular size for you?
I've filled my screen with you. It's just a question of how big your window is in your Mac.
Big. That doesn't make any sense. All right, never mind. I know who I am.
I set my Zoom up so that I don't see my own face. Because it's actually psychologically stressful to see yourself on the same screen because you keep looking at yourself, see, am I looking right, whatever. Whereas if I'm just looking at you, and it's like we're having a conversation on a normal day.
Right. Okay. So I stopped doing
Zoom meetings a lot of the day at work, so I always actually turn off my pic. Well, no, you've turned off your video altogether now.
So you want to be able to see me? Okay.
Good. But there's a way that you can hide your own. If you click on your own picture, you can say hide self view.
All right, don't worry about it now. Don't worry about it. Okay.
Anyway, back to our Mishnah. Okay, so you've got a cistern inside the house, and there's a little candelabra inside it. Okay, what's the point of the candelabra? And there's one of its one of what the what's it, the perach, the housing of the candle, or I don't know what's the English term that they use in the is it the flower?
Candelabra?
Yeah.
Candelabra?
Yes, the candelabra.
Right.
And then what part of the candelabra is protruding?
Cistern inside the house contains a candelabra whose lampstand. The
lampstand. Right. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so the lampstand is protruding. Okay, it's not going over the walls into the house. It's just protruding a little bit above the lip of the pit. Okay, and now you've got a basket, a basket that is placed on top of it. Okay, so this basket is a kli, and normally a kli is unable to form an ohel, but in this particular case, it's joining with the walls of the cistern to make an ohel over the cistern. Okay. But the problem that we have over here is that the lampstand of the candelabra is sticking a little bit out and propping up the kafisha a little bit. Okay, okay, so if the menorah wasn't there, the kli would rest directly on top of the wall. So it's like there's no break over here. It's just a small little projection that's propping up the kfisha. Okay. Beis Shammai omrim hachadus tahor menorah tameh. So Beis Shammai say that you've got the kli joining with the walls of the. So if there's tumah inside the house, we're talking about. So tumah inside the house, does the basket protect the pit? And they say, yeah, it protects the pit, but not the menorah, because the menorah is looking out. Okay, so you don't need it to be in full contact. You've got lavud with the little gap in between, but because the menorah is projecting out, it will become tameh. I'll say that doesn't make sense. Afa menorah tahora. Even right, that must also be the tahor, because if the kafisha can protect everything else in the pit because of lavud, then it should also protect the part that's protruding.
Right.
Okay. So therefore they say if it's protecting the pit, it protects the menorah as well. Mordim, however, they all agree that if the menorah itself is what's propping up the kvisha, if it's not the walls of the pit, right? That if you took away the menorah, the kli would just fall inside. Then it's not joining with the walls of the pit, and once it's not joining with the walls of the pit, it can't form an ohel at all, and therefore everything that's inside the pit is tameh. Okay. All right. Mishna Tes. Kalim shebein sifsei kafisha lebein sifsei hachadus. Okay, so now you've got kalim between the lip of this basket and the lip of the pit. Afilu ada tahum. So when we say it's ima kafisha omedes, let's just make sure. Right. Okay. So even if it's if it's between the edge of the basket and the edge of the pit, or afilu ada tahum, anything, or even if they're buried in the walls down, or going down to going down underground, everything is tahor. Okay. Because it's all protected by the joining of this kli with the walls of the cistern. Okay.
In the diagram that I have, in both diagrams, the one we're doing now and the one before, you see a little, like a coffee cup underneath the cistern.
Yes.
Right. So that's tameh. That would remain tameh.
No, he's saying if in this first case over here, the Mishnah says it's tahor because it's protected by the combination of the kli and the walls of the pit. Because that makes a full ohel, even if it's not perfectly closed. Okay.
Okay.
Tumah sham, however, if the tumah is inside the cistern, then it doesn't matter. Even if the cistern was sealed, then the whole house is going to become tameh. Why? Because tumah wants out. If the tumah is eventually going to come out, then it doesn't even matter if the thing is sealed. It will come out through the house, and the whole house will become tameh. Tumah babayis. Now, what happens if there's tumah inside the house? Now you've got kalim that are in the walls of the pit. Okay. So this is without a cover. This is now that the house there's no cover in the cistern. Okay. So if the little whatever recess that they're buried in has a roof of a tefach, and it's in an area of a tefach by tefach. So you've got a cubic tefach over there. That's an ohel by itself. Okay, almost we don't need to learn this because we're so confident in our knowledge of Ohalos that of course it's not going to become tameh. Okay, they remain tahor. But if they're not, then they're judged together with the house, with the pit, and they are tameh. Okay. However, so if your pit goes down and extends out to underneath the exterior of the house, and now they're buried in the walls of the exterior of the house, now that's no longer considered under the house, and therefore there would be tahor in any circumstances, because the tumah is not going to go further down than the walls of the house itself.
Yeah. Right.
Next parak. Neser shehu nasun al pi tanur chadash. Okay, now we get some fun cases over here. So you've got a new oven. Now, what's the difference between a new oven and an old oven? A new oven has not yet been baked in. It's just all it is clay. Okay, yeah. So it's raw clay that hasn't been baked. Now, and obviously the difference between a new and an old is that a new oven cannot become tameh. One, if it hasn't yet been baked, it's tahor, no matter what. Okay, and furthermore, since it's not yet a proper kli, it can join with something else to form another ohel. Okay, so if you've got a board that's been placed over this new oven, so you've got a board covering the mouth of the oven, and you've got an oven that's not really a kli. So what do you have over there? You've got a nice ohel. Okay. And it's overlapping the oven with a tefach in all directions. So the are two ohalos over here. There's the ohel that's inside the oven, and there's the ohel that's surrounding the oven from this board. Tuma tachtav, if there's tuma underneath the board, kalim she'al gabav tahorin, then the kalim that are on top of the board remain tahor, because that board is part of the ohel that is protecting the oven. Okay. Tuma al gabav, if the tuma is on top of the boards, kelim shetachtav tahorim, then the same thing works in the other direction, because that board is part of the roof of the ohel. Ubiyashan, but what happens if the oven is a finished oven? It's been baked. It's so now it's a proper kli. So now just putting a board on top of the oven is not going to seal anything, and it cannot form an ohel to block tumah. It can only form an ohel to spread tumah. Okay, so now if you have tumah anywhere, whether it's on the bottom or the top, the tumah is going to break through the board, both inside and outside the oven, and it's going to spread it all the way around. So basically, you've got this great big column of tumah going up and down, because the board has spread the tumah all around, including inside the oven. The oven is only protected if it's actually sealed with a samid pasil. If you put some plaster around it then it's called a samid pasil, and then it's protected. Okay. V'yashan tameh. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri Matahir. Okay, so what is Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri's opinion? Let's explain it. According to the Tosefta, Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri is only being Matahir the oven, because it's covered. He holds that the tumah cannot get inside it, but the kalim that are under the board and on top of it, he agrees that everything is tameh. So all that he's done is he's lowered the bar for making tamid pasil. Basically, he says if it's covered, that's good enough to protect it. This is not the general view. Of course, the halacha is that it's got to be actually sealed in order to protect the contents of the oven. Nasun al pi shnei tanarim. Now the board is across two ovens. Okay, it's bridging between these two ovens. Tumah beinehen. What happens if there's tumah between them, i.e., underneath the boards? Haim tameim. Then everything inside them is tameh. And Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri is matahir. Now this is interesting. Why we have to ask the question: why is the Mishnah even bringing this case? Why is it different from the first ones? Because according to Rash and Rav, this is talking about two old ovens. So it's actually a good question. Why do we need the second case? Because the first case should teach us enough that this is that this should be spread the tumah. See if there's any explanation why we had to bring the second case. Yes, there's a Rambam over here. This is necessary. Afilu yeshanim. What did we say? So bad I'm gonna say I'm just gonna read out the commentary over here of the
Okay.
the Baal Sidrei Taros. He explains the Sefer like the Rambam that it's put onto two ovens. Not only so it is coming for an extra chiddush when you've got it's not only when you've got excess on all sides, but even if you've only got excess on two sides. So let's say the ovens are aligned east west. So you've got an east oven and a west oven, and the board is running east west, and the only excess where the overlap with the of the ovens is the width. So from north and south, the board is overlapping by a tefach in the way that the so it's only got overlap in three directions each oven. In other words, north, south, and the gap in between them. So if the tumah is between them, they're completely tameh. So even when the tumah doesn't surround the entire thing, it's only in three directions. We say that the tumah from it spreads underneath the entire board. Gam keneged ha tanurim, even underneath the board of the tanur, so it doesn't get, so the wall doesn't block it. All right, it seems still to be a fairly obvious conclusion, but let's leave it at that and let's go on to the kazaras. Okay, Ohalos tes zayin.
In what case does this apply? When the excuse me, when the hide is a utensil with windows. However, if it was broken and stuffed with straw, or if the windows were covered, what is considered covered? When there is no window the size of a handbreadth. An olive-sized piece of corpse is located underneath the hide. Utensils directly below the hide, as deep as one can go, become tameh. The olive-sized piece is above the hide. The utensils directly above become tameh. If the olive-sized piece is inside the hive or outside the hive, outside the house or inside the hive in the house, becomes tameh. If a hive is a handbreadth above the ground and there is tumor below it in the house or inside the hive, everything becomes tameh except for what is above the hive. And if the tumor is above the hive, utensils directly above the tumor is up to the sky, becomes tameh. If the hive fills the entire house and there is no less than a handbreadth of space between the hive and the joist, and there is no tumor inside the house, the house becomes tameh. If there is tumor inside the house, everything inside the house remains tahor, because it is the way of tumor to exit, but it's not the way to enter. This law applies even when whether the hide is standing upright or whether it's lying on its side, and whether there's one hide or there are two.
Okay.
Aaron. Hide.
Kalim.
I just took my tissue out and lost the page. Which one?
It's 27-2, Kaf Zayin base.
That happened yesterday also. Okay. 27. Okay. Cloth can contract tumors, midras tumor if it is measures 3 hand tefakim by 3 hand tefakim, and it can contract toss tumor if it measures 3 tefakim by 3 tefakim.
Finger
Sand,
breadths, not finger
breadths. Sack can contract tumor if it measures 4 hand breadths by 4 hand breadths, and hide can contract tumor if it measures 5 hand breadths by 5 hand breadths. A mat can contract tumor if it measures 6 hand breadths by 6, and this measure applies equally to midras tumor and to a corpse tumor. The mayor says regarding a sack, a remembrance can contract tumor if they measure 4 hand breadths by initially it contracts tumor when it is completed. If one made a piece of material with 2 hand breadths of cloth and 1 hand breadth of sack, 3 hand breadths of sack and 1 hand breadth of hide, or 4 hand breadths of hide and 1 hand breadth of matting, it is tahor. But if he made a piece of material with 5 hand breadths of matting and 1 hand breadth of hide, 4 hand breadths of hide and 1 hand breadth of sack, or 3 hand breadths of sack and 1 hand breadth of cloth, it's tameh. This is the rule. Whatever has a different material attached to it is from a material more stringent than it, it's tameh. Or if it's from a material less stringent, it's tahor. If one trims any of these materials into a piece measuring 1 hand breadth by 1 hand breadth, it's tameh. If one trims from the bottom of a basket a piece measuring 1 hand breadth by 1 hand breadth, it's tameh. If he trimmed a piece from the sides of the basket, Reb Shimon moves a tahor. But if we come and say, if one trims a piece of the basket measuring 1 hand breadth by 1 hand breadth in any place, it is tameh. Okay. I'll vote as well. Okay, Olive Tet. Even a piece of which is said it is permitted to rent, they did not say so.
we're in Midos now.
Oh, I don't know when we were starting that one. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, Aleph. Okay. The Kohanim would stand guard in three places in the holy temple: in the chamber of the Avitinus, and in the chamber of the Ray, and the chamber of the hall of fire. And the Levim would stand guard in 21 places: the 5 Levim at the 5 gateways to the Temple Mount, 4 Levim at the 4 corners of the Temple Mount on the inside, 5 Levim at the 5 gateways of the Temple courtyard, 4 Levim on its 4 corners on the outside, and 1 Levi in the chamber of the offering, and 1 Levi in the chamber of the curtains, and 1 Levi behind the chamber of the ark. The officer of the temple mount would make the rounds to each and every guard, and torches would live before him, and any guard would not stand. The officer of the temple would not say to him, "Peace unto you." If it was apparent that he was sleeping, the officer would strike him with his staff, and he also had permission to burn his garment. And they would say, "What is the noise in the courtyard?" It must be the sound of a Levi being beaten and his clothing being burdened because he fell asleep on his watch. And Elias ben Yaakov says, "One time they found my mother's brother sleeping on his watch, and they burned his garment." The temple mounted 5 gateways. The 2 colder gates in the south were used for entering and exiting, entering and exiting. Campinos in the west was used for entering and exiting. Tali in the north was not used for any purpose. The eastern gate, which was depicted a likeness of Shushan, capital of Persia, that through it the Kohen Gadol was to burn the power of Duma, and the power itself and all the others assisting the power would exit to the Mount of Olives. Okay.
Okay.
And next we have
About Zorro.
Avodah Zarah. Okay. Okay. Aleph Tech. Even in a place in which they said it was permitted to rent, they did not say so for a place of dwelling, because it brings idols into it, as is written, "Do not bring an abomination into your house." In any place it should not rent in a bad house because it is called by its name. One may not stable an animal in the ends of idolaters because they are suspect in regard to bestiality, nor may a woman be alone with them because they are suspect in regard to immorality, nor a person be alone with them because they are suspect in regard to murder. A Jew should not assist an idolatress in childbirth because she caused the child to be born to idolatry. When an idolatrous woman may assist a Jewish childbirth, a Jewish should not nurse the child of an idolatrous woman, but an idolatress may nurse the child of a Jewish in her domain. One may seek medical treatment, healing from them for his possessions, for healing possessions, but not for personal healing. One may not take haircuts from them in any place. The other words of Rebbe Meir, or the comment saying a public place is permitted, but not in a private, between him and his. These items of idolatry are prohibited, and
That's it. We're done.
That's it. Okay, all right. We're on to
Okay,
Yevamos now.
first Chagiga. Let's finish Chagiga and then do Yevamos.
Okay, Zion. If one opens his mouth and begins using his dog for festival needs, Rabbi Yehuda says he may finish selling after the festival, and come and say he may not finish. Once the festival was over, they would remove everything to facilitate the cleansing of the temple courtyard. And if the day after the festival was Friday, they would not remove the vessels in reference to the honor of the Shabbos. Rabbi Yehuda says not even the day after the festival was Thursday, because the Kohanim was not free. How did they go about removing everything from the cleansing of the temple courtyard? They immersed the vessels that were in the temple as they had said to them, "Careful not to touch the table and the menorah because you're contaminated." All the vessels that were used in the temple had second and third replacement sets. That the first ones became contaminated, they would bring the second ones to replace them. All vessels that were used in the temple became required immersion except for the golden altar and the copper altar because they are like earth. These are the words of Rabbi Eliezer, and the sages say because they are plated. Hadran Allah.
Hadran Maseches Chagiga, Hadran Alach Seder Moed. Okay, Yevamos 1-1.
1-1. 15 women released their co-wives and their co-wives from Kalitza and from Yuban at infinitum. They are the following: a man's daughter, a daughter's daughter, a son's daughter, a wife's daughter, a son's daughter, and a daughter's daughter. His mother-in-law, his mother-in-law, his mother-in-law's mother, and his father-in-law's mother, his maternal sister, mother's sister, sister's wife's sister, maternal brother's wife, the wife of the non-contemporaneous brother, and his daughter-in-law. These released their co-wives and their co-wives from Kalitza and from Yibam ad infinitum. And if any of these died, refused, or was divorced, or was found to be an alonus, their wives are permitted. However, they cannot say of his mother-in-law or mother-in-law's mother or father-in-law's mother they were found to be an alonus, or they are refused.
Okay, that's it. And to Tilayim.
Okay. Perforated plant pot renders forbidden in a vineyard, but one that is not perforated does not render forbidden. If Shimon says, however, that both are lawful if they are not rendered forbidden. If one carries a perforated plant pot through a vineyard, if it's decreased by 1/200, it's forbidden. Vineyard kalayim may neither be sown nor maintained, and is forbidden to derive any benefits from it. Seed kalayim may neither be sown nor maintained, but is permitted to eat it, and of course to derive benefits from it. Any benefit may be derived from kalayim garments, and is only forbidden to wear them. It is forbidden to wear kalayim animals, and is only forbidden to breed them. Animal kalayim may not be paired one with the other. A domestic animal with a domestic animal, wild animal, domestic animal with wild animal, domestic animal, unclean with unclean, clean with clean, unclean with clean, and clean with unclean are forbidden to plow and to drive.
Okay. Have a wonderful
Wow.
day.
Okay. You too. Bye. Bye.